Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another series review. And today's series review is none other than WandaVision. Do 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 do. WandaVision. So, what is WandaVision about? Well, essentially, we are introduced to a whole neighborhood that Wanda has created from her pure imagination. Sorry, I can't help these jokes. No, seriously though, all jokes aside, she has created an entire neighborhood based off of a sitcom. And, might I add, a very good sitcom at that. If anyone out there has heard of the Dick Van Dyke Show, then you know exactly where she got the idea from. Essentially, we are introduced to a comedy spoof world that is created and shaped by Wanda's imagination. However, people on the outside the FBI and such have a kind of inclination that Westview, where she has taken over, wasn't always the way it has been painted out to be. They begin to detect a giant anomaly that begins to be building. And the funny part is, Wanda doesn't even realize she's doing it. She just realizes that she is living in a perfect world in her imagination. She has a husband, aka Vision, who has to hide his true self so that he fits in with people in the neighborhood. She has to hide her abilities to stop people from realizing she has magic. The one deep, dark secret that she doesn't realize she's also been hiding within this shroud is none other than Agatha Harkness, a witch who destroyed her own coven. Agatha has been pulling the strings from underneath Wanda's feet this whole time. Just when Wanda thought that the FBI and one of their agents who can get through her little hex were the enemy, it turns out that the real enemy who has been keeping her kids hostage this whole time has been sitting right under her nose. And when we get to the end of the series, she decides to finally pull the rug from Wanda's eyes and show her the truth. She begins to question Wanda and ask how she has the power of the Darkhold. Now, the Darkhold is something we'll get more importantly into in Doctor Strange, but essentially it allows someone to manipulate time, reality, and the perception of things around them. In Wanda's case, she has made a whole perception that her family and everyone living in the neighborhood are happy, even though behind those bright smiles, they are slowly breaking away. Think of this a little bit like The Truman Show. And essentially, we get to look back through Wanda's life and learn a lot more than we did in previous volumes of her story throughout the cinematic universe so far. We learn that Wanda and her brother managed to survive a bomb landing on their house. We learn that every night they would try their best to watch the Dick Van Dyke Show to distract themselves from the terror that's going on in their own country. We learn that eventually they end up joining Ultron after a bunch of experiments done on them by what appears to be Hydra. And we also learn that a lot of Wanda's power comes from the Mind Stone, but she has always been a witch. She just didn't know it. Agatha shows her a lot of her own life and points out why she is so bitter towards Wanda. Agatha had to learn the hard way how to do a lot of her magic. Wanda seems to have an ability to use a lot of these hexes and curses just by a mere touch of her fingers. The two begin to brawl it out, and Vision finds himself suddenly coming to terms with the fact that he doesn't really exist. At one point in the series before the confrontation with Agatha, he does address this with Wanda and begins to fight with her over his real ability of how real he is, especially after when he learns that if he goes outside of the Hex, he will die. It's eventually told to him that she actually stole him from a lab and has reconstructed him purely to live inside of the Hex. Outside of that, it's unclear what Vision really is. Hopefully we'll get some more answers to Vision in Vision's quest. But at the end of this, essentially Wanda and Vision break up and he steals the body of the white replica militant version of himself that was brought into being. We then get a lot of flashbacks to a grieving Wanda building the neighborhood around herself. We learn how this whole hex began in the first place, and by the end of it, she decides to leave. She decides to leave the town not only because she's grieving over the disappearance of her two boys, but because of the fact that she can't live with the fact that it's all gone. So, WandaVision. What would I give this out of 10? Well, I've got to say, the one thing I really love throughout this series is the fact that Darcy, yes, the one you can see up in the left-hand corner, and the detective on the other side from Ant-Man, both literally sit there for ages throughout this whole series watching the TV show of Wanda and Vision. It's just amazing. I also like the battle and the internal battle with Monica Rambeau having to be the only person who can break through the barrier. I love the fact that she gets introduced as a character at one point, but then because it begins to break the illusion, she has to slowly be kicked out of the perception. I love that she constantly keeps trying to break in and help Wanda, but Wanda is resilient and doesn't want her help. I love the way that this series plays out and the way that we actually get this whole kind of comedy spoof of a series away from our big climactic fight straight away. I love that our main overarching villain, being Agatha Harkness, is introduced at the end of the series and really gives us a perspective on where the series was going. And for that reason, I give WandaVision a solid 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next series review. Until then, stay beautiful, you beautiful people.